Good morning, RIT community. Welcome to the traditional President's Address to the RIT community. Now, I'm never really quite sure if people know who I am, so just in case, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Jeremy Haefner, Provost and Senior Vice President, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome you to the start of a new academic year. You know, it just seems like May commencement was just a couple of weeks ago, and the summer went by really, really quickly. So before we begin, it is very appropriate that we stand and sing the national anthem, followed by our alma mater. So please join me. Keith Jenkins, Associate Professor in the Department of Communication in the College of Liberal Arts, will lead us in the singing, accompanied by Nathan Davey from the Eastman School of Music. Keith? Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Davey. I think every year that just gets more and more moving as we start our new academic year. Before we go any further, I'd like to welcome some of our special guests. I'm going to start, of course, with any members of the Board of Trustees who have joined us this morning. Of course, the trustees provide the vision and the strategy for Rochester Institute of Technology. Let's give a warm welcome to our trustees. And of course, our ceremony this morning is enriched by the presence and expertise of our professional sign language interpreters and real-time captionists. Let's thank them for their important work in facilitating access to communication. Plus, they are very fun to watch as well. Now, I'm also proud to welcome two new individuals to campus, and I'm sure you'll want to spend some time getting to know them. James Hall is our new Executive Director of the Center for Multidisciplinary Studies, and Sandra Johnson, our new Senior Vice President for Student Affairs. Sandy, welcome. Jim. Dr. Hall comes to us from the University of Alabama, where he served as Director of the New College at Alabama and Executive Director of the Consortium for Innovative Environments in Learning. And originally hailing from Canada, Jim is happy to be closer to family and friends in Ontario, but probably a little less happy to have to purchase a snow shovel and winter jacket again, I'm guessing. Dr. Johnson comes to us from Hofstra University, where she served as Vice President for the Division of Student Affairs at Hofstra University. She also served as an Associate Dean in Student Affairs at Columbia University and Barnard College for several years. So welcome, Jim and Sandy. Now, this year marks our second year of the semester system. What? We're in the semester system? We completed our first year, and I want to say with flying colors, thanks to the meticulous long-term planning of our faculty and staff. Now, as you probably know, I was able to meet with the faculty and staff of many of our academic departments over the past year, and the majority of the feedback I received indicated that while the transition from quarters to semesters was a challenge for both students and faculty, the semesters did allow time for deeper discussions and increased engagement between students and instructors. In fact, we found that, for example, many papers could have multiple revisions, and that just improved the overall quality of the student work. Now, in addition to discussing the semester conversion, we covered a number of issues, and while there are many more that need work and attention, we were able to resolve a number of them. One that is ongoing was a theme of issues involving the streamlining of bureaucratic processes that we have collected over the years. Now, without a question, we have some practices and processes that have not been reviewed in decades, and in some cases have expanded and become more burdensome rather than less. So would it not be great if we could make some simplifications and reduce the work that we have to do? Well, indeed. So with President Destler's concurrence, I will be working with the other divisional vice presidents to organize and charge a campus-wide task force that will review our procedures and make recommendations for change. I've also asked Graduate Studies Dean Hector Flores to work with Enrollment Management and Career Services to digitize the graduate student application process. And this will make it much easier for faculty to review applicants and speed up the process as well. And finally, the deans and I will be reviewing the work of last year's task force on faculty hiring and deciding which recommendations to implement. So all this work should result in more streamlined processes, less paperwork, and a better quality. I'm looking forward to making material progress in this very important issue that's faced. Now, I've really enjoyed the listening tour, and I listed as a highlight of last year for me. It was really a pleasure to engage in the conversations and get to know better our more than 1,500 faculty and staff in the Academic Affairs Division. There are over 75 departments, and I had meetings with over 55 of them. But for those I missed, do not worry. My trustee Pam Spencer and Katrina Rex are busy scheduling meetings with the remaining departments early in the fall semester. And then when I'm done with those, I plan to start the cycle all over so I can have follow-up conversations. Before I introduce the next speaker, I want to share with you two reasons that contribute to my deep optimism about the future of RIT. So first, RIT is positioned to have, I think, another groundbreaking year. Enrollments across the board are very healthy. The budget for next year is on solid footing, and the new students, whom we welcomed just this week, are joining our family, are truly talented and eager to be here. Our sponsored research efforts have already had a very productive start with over $10 million in new awards in July alone. And the new strategic plan, which will be presented to the Board of Trustees in this November, will provide a well-lit pathway for RIT's future. And Dr. Destler will discuss this and more, of course, in his remarks. But for now, I hope you can see a glimpse of why we should be so optimistic and enthusiastic for RIT's future. But it's there because of your tremendous work. And so I want to take an opportunity just to thank you for all the work that you do to make RIT a great university. So let's give ourselves a round of applause to all of those who work so hard. Thank you so much. Now, the second reason that we should feel optimistic about the future really stems to the very essence of RIT, and that's the importance of that special relationship that develops between students and faculty. You're about to see the latest in a series of videos created by Joe Bellavia and the production team at the Wallace Center, describing the relationship of Kyla Sandoval and her faculty in the Department of Mechanical Engineering Technology in CAST. So let's roll the reel and take a look.
Hi, my name is Kayla and I'm from El Paso, Texas. In high school, I knew that I wanted to improve the things around me, but I didn't know how just yet. So I wanted to go to a college that encourages new ways of thinking and supports students in making their ideas come to life. RIT was the perfect environment for me. I started in the undeclared science program, but when I saw one of my friends, an MET major, working on an awesome project for pumpkin chunkin', right away I knew I wanted to do what they were doing. So after my first term, I switched into the Mechanical Engineering and Technology program. Mechanical engineering is looking at the world around you, figuring out how it works, and determining what could be improved, then making it better, faster, stronger, and smarter. MET is the applied, hands-on, in-your-face version of mechanical engineering. It's awesome learning from professors that have decades of experience, like Bill Leonard, my professor for mechanical analysis and design. This course is all about redefining your thought processes as an engineer while analyzing specific breakdown points in a part. Professor Leonard is always finding ways to point you in the right direction. We learn to troubleshoot and anticipate points of failure in materials with the detailed knowledge he gave us. One of my favorite projects was in my composite materials class. I love composites. For example, carbon fiber. It's as strong as steel at only a fraction of the weight. My partner Charlie and I decided to design speakers. With composites, we can make them more durable, and we were able to be more creative with our ideas. We sketched it, modeled it, and simulated it. Then, the final step was to create the physical parts in the composites lab. It's an incredible feeling to have an idea and actually be able to build it. And RIT's innovative atmosphere and experienced professors provided me with the perfect environment to make that happen. My experiences here led me to a co-op with GE Aviation. I plan on taking my passion for composites and the skills RIT has taught me to build the next generation of aeronautic advancements.
Thank you, Joe, and the Wallace Center. I just love her phrase there, in-your-face mechanical engineering. That's great. So like all our videos, which can be found on the Academic Affairs website, I think that one is yet another impressive story. But more importantly, the video really captures, I think, the extreme nobility and worthiness of what we do here and how it's transforming students' lives. So now on to our speakers. Earlier this week at the convocation for new students and families, a series of speakers, including Dr. Destler, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Ashley Carrington, and I pledged to parents that they and their students have made the right choice by choosing RIT. We pledged to our incoming students that RIT is committed to providing them an outstanding educational experience both inside and outside the classroom. Our first step in delivering on these pledges begins with this morning's speakers. The chairs of the Academic Senate and Staff Council, the President of Student Government, and the Associate Provost and Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion will each have about 5 minutes to welcome you and briefly outline their vision and plans for the upcoming year. And when they are finished, Dr. Destler will deliver his traditional President's Address. Our first speaker is no shrinking violet when it comes to the work he does for RIT. I'm very pleased to introduce our very own poet laureate, Dr. Michael Laver, Associate Professor of History in the College of Liberal Arts and beginning his second term as Chair of the Academic Senate. Michael?
Thanks, Jeremy, for that introduction. Before I start, I just want to share a little something with you. As I was coming into work this morning, I was getting my bag from the back seat, and I noticed on the back seat were all these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that my sons play with. Really, they just throw them at each other, being two boys. But it really made me think, that this might be a metaphor for our students and what we do here on campus. And what I mean by that is, as someone who's been teaching almost a decade now, I can promise you that with rigorous training and, a little bit of fun thrown in and some timely exposure to amorphous and ambiguous radioactive sludge, there's really nothing we can't accomplish. So please keep that in mind as we start the semester. I want to read to you a poem that I wrote for this occasion that I called A View from the Fool. And it's a little bit about Academic Senate. As the rolling year another revolution makes, and the season soon the autumnal chill will bring, our RIT community in this yearly ritual partakes, in anticipation that hope really does eternal spring. Celebrate the students who in studies and other studies are immersed as they grope toward adulthood and their dreams. Celebrate the disciplines in which our faculty are well versed. Their learning and, dare I say, innovation burst forth in torrid streams. We herald staff, the steady bulwark against civil and institutional disorder, dedicated, long-suffering, competent, patient, and true. We herald administrators, and though our heraldry may begrudging this border, they guide this ship with its learned and contentious crew. It is the lot of Academic Senate, with its senators many and diverse, to deliberate, to wrestle, to wrangle, to discourse, and to devise policies and procedures to construe a more just and excellent university, and thereby contribute to this community on the rise. And let me turn now, as summer turns to fall, to a community that encompasses every university member. For policies and rules and procedures are surely not all. That dignity and respect are universal, we must always remember. Yes, we will strive, we will deliberate, we will argue, have no doubt, but we do so in full knowledge that justice and equity is our goal. For the beloved community, as King taught, is what it's all about. Models of citizenship and integrity should be our collective role. Yea, there'll be policies and issues aplenty to ponder, but at the start of a new year, the right tone. For as we through the academic forest wander, it's easy to believe that on this journey we tread alone. But community holds us and guides us, always present, and this community, larger than ourselves, is. You are a part of us, and your interests we strive to represent, so get to know your representatives. And as my time with you runs its course right on cue, and as blessed summer to creeping autumn yields, all that remains is to heartily and humbly thank you, and to introduce Staff Council President Lauren Shields.
Thanks, Michael. Unfortunately, the only poetry I've ever written is of the angsty teenage girl variety, so I won't be sharing that with you today. You'll have to settle for my boring speech. Good morning and welcome back to another exciting year at RIT. Last year, we experienced the first year of the semester system. The overwhelming success of semester conversion can only be attributed to the hard work of the faculty, staff, and administration here at RIT. Many of us put in countless hours converting curriculum, systems and processes, or worked nights and weekends to complete individual advising plans for all 15,000 undergraduate students affected by the change. Looking forward, RIT will be embarking on a new 10-year strategic plan which will set the tone for our future. We are moving towards an increasingly collaborative, interdisciplinary, and global model. In that same vein, staff and faculty will work even more closely together in new and innovative ways to make this vision a reality. We will continue to push beyond our comfort zones to break down the artificial walls we have placed around ourselves, whether it's between departments, divisions, or those separating faculty and staff. Staff are ready to meet the challenges with enthusiasm and creativity to build on past successes and make RIT even better. We have the opportunity to usher in a new future, not just for those of us more permanent fixtures at RIT, but for our students as well. Whether they are starting out at an entry-level computer programming position or founding their own company, RIT's role in their career will be vital beyond their relatively short time here on campus. Preparing them for the world goes beyond what they are taught in the classroom. It includes the relationships they forge with everyone they come into contact with at RIT. From the professors of their microeconomics lecture to the custodial staff who maintain every square inch of RIT's vast campus, we will have an impact on that student's life. As RIT continues to evolve, Staff Council will evolve too. We have the unique role of serving as a conduit between the staff and administration for important issues that arise. Last year, we were successful in helping Human Resources create a matrix of skills competencies for the different levels of staff assistant positions as a means of helping those seeking to advance their careers. Additionally, we provided the administration with valuable feedback from staff across campus on proposals including the energy policy and the tobacco policy. This year, Staff Council looks forward to partnering with our constituents and administration to solve our most pressing issues. One of the most common concerns that Staff Council is confronted with each year is that of staff appraisals. We plan to use this year to work both independently and with Human Resources to build a more robust policy surrounding staff performance appraisals, offering more guidance to managers and paths for staff to take to ensure they are receiving timely feedback. While we appreciate the diversity of staff positions and responsibilities within the Institute, we believe that more can be done to create consistency across the divisions. We would also like to see the Institute put more effort into encouraging managers to seek 360-degree evaluations. In the increasingly competitive and price-weary environment of higher education, we all need to be doing the best we can. Without adequate feedback mechanisms, how will we ever know where we can improve? Additionally, over the past few years, we've heard concerns from many people across campus about the safety of pedestrians. The increasing numbers of bikes and skateboards on our campus has created concerns about the well-being of everyone who shares RIT thoroughfares. After initiating conversations with Dr. Destler and Institute Council, we have succeeded in getting the go-ahead to form a task force with representatives from each of the governance groups. The committee will make suggestions on how to improve safety on campus and present them for implementation. RIT is already a pretty great place to work, just as it is a great place to learn. Staff Council plans to help maintain and improve that status in every way we can. We'll continue to listen to staff concerns and bring them to the table for discussion with administration. We'll continue to work with administration to find mutually satisfactory solutions to issues that arise. We look forward to another great year at RIT and to welcoming another outstanding class of first-year students, transfer students, and graduate students to the RIT family. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Ashley Carrington, President of RIT Student Government and a student in the Saunders College of Business. Ashley?
Good morning, faculty, staff, and administration. My name is Ashley Carrington, and I am the president of RIT's Student Government for the 2014-2015 academic year. Today marks the beginning of a great day, a new school year at Rochester Institute of Technology. While the start of a new school year means new challenges, it also means new processes, new students, and most importantly, new opportunities. The marvelous thing about academia is each year you have an opportunity for a fresh start. You encounter a different group of students that will allow you to edit your curricula, test your new methods, or make new changes in your department. During my orientation speech 2 days ago, I spoke about the words I believe we should all live by this year. Be great. And during that speech, I mentioned that greatness is not defined by what you do, but rather by who you are, and each individual establishes their own benchmark for greatness. As a part of this university, I think we can establish that benchmark together. Some of the top universities in this nation are not recognized by the individual people who helped shape the university, but rather by the goals and ideals they strived for and attained as a collective whole. Being in the top 50 schools in the nation, having one of their collegiate teams win a national championship, or having the best dining facilities are all examples of accomplishments that have gotten university recognized on a national and even a global level. It is not surprising that it wasn't one person who got them there, and it certainly didn't take just 1 year. These changes and shifts in university culture and policy takes years of people giving it their all. It took professors spending that extra time to help students after class. It took that team hours of practice and making sure each community member filled the stands during every game. It took harnessing that constructive criticism on food and dining practices and reapplying it to make improvements to every meal option. Each and every person was striving to be as great as they could possibly be, which translated into a university that strives to be as great as it can be. I'm standing here and speaking to you today to say that RIT may not be there yet, but we have the talent and passion to become that school that strives towards the highest echelons of success and greatness. Student government might have an advantage with respect to fostering growth and new ideas. Every year, we have new leadership with new ideas on how to work with students, administration, and staff on accomplishing their respective goals. This year, we want to build our goals together and create a system that allows for future student government members to build from what we create this year. We plan on implementing systems such as our Make a Difference website, a petition website that will allow each and every one of us to get constructive criticism on all topics across campus so that we can continue to advance as a university and learn what the popular opinions are on subjects that matter on campus. We will harness our diversity and technology skill set to bring forth new ideas and innovations and support and collaborate with each other and every endeavor undertaken. The beautiful thing about RIT is that it has huge potential to be great, but we can only do so through our support of each other and constant willingness to be open and try new ideas and concepts. I couldn't be more excited to work with each and every one of you over the next year, because together, we can attain that benchmark of greatness through our due diligence and partnership and efforts, aiming to better our campus each and every day. So now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Kevin McDonald, the Vice President and Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new academic year bursting with possibilities. As a world-class institution, RIT has grown to recognize that research knowledge production, operational, and academic pursuits benefit tremendously from the full engagement of diverse viewpoints derived from a variety of lived experiences and ways of interacting with and interpreting the world. As an enlightened academic community, we recognize the value of boldly pursuing full inclusion as a central component of our values and our approach to each other and this world around us. Well, in that spirit, our attempts at making excellence inclusive brought forth a number of positive results last year. Led by the strategic planning efforts of our faculty, our staff, our students, and our trustees, RIT has meaningfully attempted to integrate diversity, global engagement, international education into various aspects of its organizational functioning, and our community fully expects to see this effort reflected in the final strategic plan. The Division of Enrollment Management and Career Services continued its stellar track record of admitting a more selective but increasingly diverse first-year student class, and our entire campus community witnessed the first graduating class of our Rochester City Scholarship recipients last year. Absolutely. This great program will continue to have a transformational impact on Rochester City graduates and our campus community, thanks to the generous financial contribution of President Destler and Dr. Rebecca Johnson. The work of the advanced team and the President's Commission on Women continue to have a positive influence on policies, on practices, and processes surrounding women faculty and students on our campus. And while the Commission has noted increases in the number of female STEM undergraduates and first-year STEM undergraduate females by 1% and 1.5% respectively, they also recognize, along with our senior leadership, that there remains significant room for growth, and all are heavily invested in improving these outcomes. Now, speaking of senior leadership, with their support and through the collaborative efforts of the Division for Diversity and Inclusion, the Division of Student Affairs, and student organizations, RIT opened a cultural space for students and diversity programming last year. It's called Mosaic and stands for Making Our Space an Inclusive Community, and we look forward to its utilization by staff and students and faculty this academic year. Once again, our campus community came out in strong numbers to support our expression of King's Legacy speaker Tavis Smiley, while also supporting our collaboration with the Rochester community, as Tavis moderated a panel discussion in the city which examined race, the state of race in Rochester 50 years after the riots of 1964. This academic year, we will work collaboratively with the Department of Communication to welcome journalist, executive producer, and philanthropist Soledad O'Brien to campus as our expression speaker. This year will also mark the first year that RIT will receive the coveted and nationally recognized Higher Education Excellence and Diversity Award given out by Insight into Diversity, the publication. This honor is the result of a collaborative effort at making excellence inclusive within our domestic and international campuses. And while we still have areas like underrepresented faculty retention or the percentages of women faculty and female students that warrant our full attention and engagement, we can celebrate some of our successes and the national recognition that has accompanied them, because our community knows full well that inclusion treasures and utilizes diversity as it builds community. Creating a culture of inclusion is not an optional exercise, but rather an indispensable precondition that enables us to capitalize on our diverse skills, our perspectives, and experiences so that we can better advance the fundamental research and educational mission of RIT. But to maintain the Institute's unrelenting standards of excellence, all members of our community must contribute at the apex of their abilities, because a productively diverse community at RIT will make us better at what we do, broader and deeper as thinkers, more effective as collaborators, more creative as faculty, staff, and students, and more understanding as colleagues and as friends. To that end, I'd like to welcome you to a new academic year of exploration, innovation, advancement, and of inventing our future and our world's future. I look forward to working collaboratively with you as we continue making excellence inclusive at RIT, in the local Rochester community, and all over the world. Thank you. Now it is my distinct honor to introduce our president, Dr. Bill Destler. For those of you who don't know him yet, let me tell you just a little bit about Dr. Destler. His career in higher education spans more than 30 years, and he is an international authority on high-power microwave sources and advanced accelerator concepts, which I know absolutely nothing about, but still is quite impressive nonetheless. Dr. Destler earned his bachelor's degree from Stevens Institute of Technology and his PhD from Cornell University. Now, there are some other interesting tidbits to Bill as well. For example, he is an accomplished musician, and he is a founding member of the Baltimore Folk Music Society. Additionally, he has over 2,000 friends on Facebook and almost as many banjos, but he's currently in a support group for that issue. Bill comes from a family of humanists, including his wife, Rebecca L. Johnson, who holds a PhD in psychology and is very active in the RIT and Rochester communities, most notably through her work in sustainability and civility. You may see them biking together as they are both avid cyclists and are great proponents of alternative-powered vehicles and scooters. Please join me in welcoming the steadfast captain of our great academic ship, President Bill Destler.
Whoa. I can see this is going to be a challenging year. Is this thing on? It is? Okay, good. I already knew it was going to be a challenging year for a couple of reasons. But right now, I just noticed that everybody on stage has left, lest they be associated with my remarks in any possibly supportive way. But I knew it was going to be a challenging year when the search committee for the senior vice president for student affairs came out with their recommendations, and I was compelled by the sheer quality of her resume and her depth of experience to hire another Dr. Johnson. And to make matters worse, the new director of our Center for Multidisciplinary Studies has brought a wife by the name of Rebecca Johnson. I am now seriously outnumbered on this campus. So I want to give you a kind of a welcome back address, but more importantly, I want to talk about our strategic planning efforts. First of all, the welcome back address consists of welcome back. But I do want to give you an early look at our new strategic plan. This is obviously still very much a work in progress. The plan will ultimately consist of a short summary document that will be produced as a kind of glossy, distributable document with a bunch of pictures and a bunch of central messages to our strategic plan. But there will be a much longer document which will include much of the community input that we have received. And so far, only a draft of the short document has been created, and that draft will actually be available to you as you exit. It's been sometimes stated that there's a few people at RIT who think this plan was written a long time ago. Well, let me tell you, we made our latest change to this plan yesterday, and we intend to make changes until we present it to the trustees for approval in November. We need your input. Please, there's a website and an email address on the document you'll receive as you exit to provide your input. We need your input. We need to make the best possible strategic plan for RIT for the next decade. Where are we now? I think RIT clearly is a very good, comprehensive university with a growing national reputation. We've seen this in so many ways. Interestingly enough, RIT has quite a number of jewels in the crown, so to speak, including our co-op program, of course, the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, programs in imaging science, the School for American Crafts, game design and development, industrial design, photography, film and animation, sustainable manufacturing, computational astrophysics, and the like. But none of these actually is in a traditional academic discipline. Now, don't get me wrong. We have many distinguished programs in traditional disciplines. But for example, I'll just use our mechanical engineering program as an example. This is absolutely a first-class program with a national reputation. But because we don't offer a PhD in mechanical engineering, we will probably never show up in the top 25 lists of mechanical engineering programs nationwide. So our reputation, to some extent, comes from programs that really are not in the traditional academic disciplines. Other defining characteristics: large undergraduate enrollment, a focus on STEM. Of course, that's of increasing importance nationally as we see an increasing demand for STEM graduates in our companies. We have really a set of quite unique cross-disciplinary PhD programs. We already have a significant presence overseas. We have, of course, the closest connections to industry you could possibly have. In fact, we send our students out to 2,000 different companies every year on co-op assignments. We have a history of strong fiscal management and a very modern physical plant. And interestingly enough, I warned you about this last year, RIT last year produced 29 PhDs, and that will almost inevitably move us into the National Research University ranking category. And I think that we are already underway in preparing to increase our national reputation so that we will fare well in that new ranking scheme. Now, in terms of the strategic plan, we've had a very active year. We started in November of 2013, and we hope to conclude in November of 2014. In the previous two slides, I can summarize the kind of point of departure, where we are now for our strategic planning efforts. It's been a necessarily speedy process, although some of you will be surprised to learn that the last process actually was done in less than a year. But it's been more widely participatory than many people believe or understand. Just as an example, we've of course had a cross-campus steering committee, we've had 2 campus forums, we've had a full-day alumni association meeting dedicated to the strategic plan, we've had a discussion forum on our website, we've had a trustee strategic planning committee, 7 different task forces with more than 160 members from our campus community working on the plan. We've had open task force meetings, 6 different task force wikis, a provost town hall meeting, President's Roundtable spent a full meeting on this, a day and a half. We had a full day April board meeting dedicated to this process. The Institute of Fellows has contributed. All the governance groups are contributing. I've even had an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and that's an experience, let me tell you. We've gotten 100 emails to our strategic planning email address. We've had an alumni survey to which 891 alums responded. We've had 5 meetings of our Salon for Strategic Thinking, which I think has taken a very, very high-level view at the future of higher education and where we can make important contributions. And of course, we spent a good part of this last July Board of Trustees meeting talking about the plan as well. So based on this input, what do I think RIT should be, or more correctly, what are people like you telling me RIT should be? And I think the real answer is pretty obvious. We should be an internationally significant, career-focused university with our own unique character and programs. I think a university that belongs in the category of the world's great universities, and we should settle for nothing less. Not because we seek to replicate Stanford or Harvard or whatever, but because we are already practicing what the future universities are going to have to provide. We already occupy a unique place in academia. Yeah. Thank you. And just to show you, if you go to the Carnegie Foundation website where you can see all the universities and their classifications, you will see that under the various classification categories, for example, under undergraduate instructional program, we're considered a program that offers degrees in professions plus arts and sciences with a high graduate coexistence. The graduate instructional program is doctoral with a STEM dominant. Our enrollment profile is high undergraduate. Undergraduate profile is full-time 4-year, more selective, higher transfer content. Size and setting, large 4-year, highly residential. Those are the characteristics that define us. Now, if you go to that website and you enter those characteristics into the search engine, the only university that comes up is RIT. There ain't no others. Yeah. Okay. And you'll notice our current classification is master's, colleges, and universities, larger programs, but you do not have to put that qualification in there in order to search. And if you include all of the institutions in the country, the only university that comes up with this classification is RIT. So I think we need to ask ourselves what defines an internationally significant university for the years ahead. I think clearly an internationally significant university is going to have a match between the university's demonstrated strengths and capabilities and the emerging demands of a shrinking world. Demands such as affordability and positive return on investment. Boy, have we heard a lot about that lately. We need to basically respond to the question that everybody's asking: what will students do when they graduate? And our career-focused curriculum course is a perfect match to that. These particular programs have to be accessible to students from around the world and from every part of society, including the most economically challenged members of our society. We actually need to focus on STEM degrees, but I think importantly, we need to produce STEM graduates who with experience in design, business, social sciences, the humanities, the wide range of elements that make a person an educated person. And we need to have a robust, well-funded, and interdisciplinary research program that contributes to the advancement of human knowledge. And finally, you have to be global in this shrinking world. Now, if you actually look at all these, I think that's a pretty good set of requirements for what it will take to be an internationally significant university in the years ahead. The match between RIT and these demands is exceptional. Affordability, we have a need-blind admissions policy and a history of keeping tuition below the national average for private universities. Our return on investment is unquestionable. Last year, 96% of our graduates either found a job in their field or were full-time enrolled in graduate school by the fall. That's a national best practice. Obviously, we're accessible. We actually have a very high percentage of Pell eligible. That means the students from the most financially challenged families here at RIT. 31% of our undergraduates come from Pell eligible families. And the 45-year presence of NTID has prepared us perfectly to deal with the new complexity of increasing diversity coming out of the high schools across the country and around the world. We have a growing research program, and interestingly enough, we have a record of agility in tackling research projects outside of the major primary academic disciplines. And of course, we have already a significant global reach through 4 international campus programs, and I think an enormous number of incoming international students that take their educational processes right here at RIT. So my vision, and I hope it will be your vision too, RIT will become an internationally distinguished university by exploiting not our similarities but our differences and better meeting the needs of a rapidly shrinking world. Or more succinctly, I think RIT will achieve greatness through difference. Now, we've actually begun to organize the strategic plan around 4 key themes because it helps to focus our activities and our goals around certain areas so that we can make sure that we address the most important areas that will advance RIT into this ambitious new place in higher education. And those are career education and student success. I've already mentioned that. I think also a student-centered research university, taking our student-centeredness all the way through to our graduate programs would be the next step for us. And leveraging difference. I already mentioned how many ways we're different, but I think leveraging the cultural and racial and economic difference within our community would also be a very, very compelling point as we move forward. And clearly, we have to continue to work to make RIT affordable. Now, in Dimension 1, career education and student success, we clearly want to provide our students with an enriched education that fully prepares them for new world careers. And you'll see we have associated strategies associated with this kind of aim here. And what I want to mention here is that we might want to consider developing not just a STEM curriculum, but a STEAM curriculum. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Yeah. Why? Because we can do it. We are a community of right-brainers and left-brainers. I think we want to basically look at new opportunities for learning, be it online, be it nano degrees, special programs for advanced study by people who have already graduated from college. I think we ought to look at perhaps even double majors for graduate students. That would be a fresh thing to look at, wouldn't it? By the way, all of these ideas came out of the task groups and the feedback we got from the RIT community. And some big goals. This will surprise you a little bit. First one won't surprise you. RIT will become one of the 10 largest private universities in the US by undergraduate enrollment. Well, we're 11th now. Okay, so we'll do that. But we can be the largest producer of STEM graduates among all private colleges in the US. We're presently number 2. Brigham Young, which is number 1, and only number 1 because they're so huge, is only 100 students ahead of us. When people begin to say that RIT is the biggest producer of STEM graduates among all the private colleges and universities, of which there are thousands, people will have to take notice of what's going on here in Rochester, New York. I think we need to basically work very hard, and this is easy to say but hard to do. We need to develop opportunities for study at the intersections of technology and the arts, imagination and application, and rigor and curiosity. We're good at talking about this, but we need to be better at actually doing it. That means students who do projects in business ought to be teamed with students who are doing projects in design or in engineering or in computer science. And they should get credit in their own degree programs by working together on those kinds of projects. We simply have to do a better job of that. We're already seeing an increased ability of the institution to serve as an economic engine for the region. Some of our latest spin-out companies, Pictometry is a good example, of course, of a mature company, but companies like Vinomics and Sweetwater, for example, are actually growing rapidly in our community and hiring now significant numbers of employees, and those have resulted directly from technologies developed at RIT. So I think we ought to set a goal for ourselves to greatly expand our entrepreneurship and new business generation programs to the point where we could produce as many as 50 companies every year coming out of the campus. Think what that would do for the regional economy. And I think that we need to be a university where you can't leave here as a student without developing global knowledge and intercultural competencies through both our disciplinary and our general education curriculum. And we need to charge our faculty with ensuring that this happens with all of our various curriculum. And another great idea that came out of the task groups, I think we want to develop co-curricular transcripts that reflect not just a student's academic progress and successes, but the kind of experiences they have developing leadership skills, participation in organizations, clubs, athletics, everything else. So when our students go out in the marketplace, people will see they are not one-dimensional. They didn't just do well in the classroom, but they have experience that will lead them to be the leaders of those companies in future years. Dimension 2, the Student-Centered Research University. RIT will extend its student-centric undergraduate culture across all degree levels, at the same time integrating the mission-critical activities of research, scholarship, teaching, and learning. So one of the things we have to do, and frankly we've made great progress at it, is identify a set of interdisciplinary research programs where RIT can play a leading role. More on that in a moment. We need to develop an organizational structure, as I said before, that supports cross-disciplinary and cross-degree level research centers, and for that matter, educational programs as well. We need to encourage and facilitate the participation of undergraduate students in funded research teams. Let me tell you, if you want to solve the potential problem of becoming too research intensive at the expense of our undergraduates, the solution is to conduct research with undergraduates. We will do that. We need to basically develop and apply the same kind of student success measures to our graduate student population. You know, RIT used to be largely a part-time graduate center. Students used to take degrees at night in professional disciplines. Now we are, by a significant majority, a full-time graduate program. We need to change the culture here to reflect that. And as I said before, we ought to look at perhaps developing double majors or maybe even minors for graduate students. This could really distinguish us in the years ahead. Possible associated big goals. I mentioned we need to select and support some specific areas of interdisciplinary research where we could invest and become real-world leaders. And actually, the research task group, with a lot of blood on the floor, I might add, actually came up with a good first set to look at. They considered areas such as global resilience, accessibility and inclusion. Why? Because, look, we have NTID already, and we have a lot of work in accessible technology for the handicapped, or I should say the disabled. Advanced design and manufacturing, biorenewable resource economics, and I added digital entertainment and imaging technologies because those are areas in which we have top 5 programs and ought to assume a leadership position. I think we should have aspirations to be ranked in the top 100 U.S. national universities, despite the fact that that ranking formula is not particularly well matched to RIT because of our differences. I think if we invest in these particular focused research areas, we will make a step change in RIT's international reputation as a research university, and we can do it without sacrificing the quality of our undergraduate experience for our students. Leveraging difference. We will intensify our culture of innovation and creativity by harnessing the creative power resident in the extraordinary diversity of our community. We've become much more diverse, as most of you can see by just looking around the room. But we have yet to optimally use that diversity as a creative engine in our community, and we need to do a better job of that. I think we need to look at, for example, more international exposure for our students who are reluctant to go overseas because they're already going to spend extra time before they graduate in the co-op program. Well, let's use the January intersession to organize some short-term study abroad opportunities for our students. We are about to launch a new urban charter school in collaboration with the Uncommon School Charter School Organization Group in downtown Rochester. That's actually going to give us a tremendous insight into what the new generation of students will need when they come to RIT. Let's use that to make RIT a better match to the needs of incoming students and the new demographics that they represent. And I think that we clearly need to work on increasing female enrollment in STEM. So I have some associated goals here, too. For example, I think we could be the most engaged private university in the U.S. as measured by the breadth and size of our international populations served both in the U.S. and abroad. That goal is within our reach. I think RIT, because of the hard work of Kevin McDonald and his exceptional group, is on the verge of providing the kind of academic support services that can eliminate the achievement gap between minority and majority students here at RIT. If we do that, the world will talk about us. Yeah. Kevin already mentioned that we have as a goal becoming a model of inclusive excellence for all of our students, faculty, and staff. We're not there yet, but we're making progress, and we show substantial community commitment to that process. Another thing that's interesting, you might not know this, but we are in a position to at least talk about becoming the largest producer of female and Alana STEM graduates among all private colleges. Another thing, people would start talking about us big time if we did that. Now, we're a little bit behind a few institutions in that area, but it's a real possibility for us. So I think we should look at it. Finally, affordability. Clearly, we have to develop a creative tuition containment program to address the financial needs of promising low-income students. We already provide a positive return on investment for all graduates, but I think we also need to extend opportunities for paid experiential learning, perhaps even beyond our current co-op programs. One of the things we'll have, obviously, is a big fundraising campaign to raise more funds for scholarships for needy students. We clearly have to do that. We're going to conduct a capital campaign that I think in part will be focused on helping students finish in the appropriate time for their degree. I think we also need to look at a portfolio of online courses that will meet the needs of people out in the region, but also out nationally and in the international communities, focused on areas in which RIT has special expertise and can offer special added benefits. And I think we need to, as I said before, enhance the existing co-op programs by broadening the definition of co-op placement and extending the requirement across all undergraduate programs, but again, being sensitive to the very different nature of those programs. And also, our alumni task force has come up with a very ambitious plan called RIT for Life, which would allow alums to take advantage of RIT throughout their professional careers. We want to look at that plan very hard as well. Possible associated goals. RIT is already the university with the best placement rate. Being the best return on investment, at least calculated, will be a challenge for us because we produce many students in the arts. But I think that's still a possibility for us to aspire to. I think that actually we have a chance to become the university that best utilizes educational technology to reduce costs, improve access, and achieve learning outcomes. We were recently ranked in the top 10 online educational institutions in the country. And RIT, of course, will continue to support on-time graduation for all of our students. Funding the plan, a big challenge. All of these goals will be funded through a fundraising effort to be organized over the next year. In addition, of course, we'll have to look hard at our internal allocation of funds and where it makes sense, do strategic reallocations to support the achievement of goals in the plan. Greatness through difference. I think this is an ambitious goal for the institution. I think it's just a bit audacious, but I also think it's very achievable. Let's do it. Thanks very much.
And instructors. In fact, we found that, for example, many papers could have multiple revisions, and that just improved the overall quality of the student work. Now, in addition to discussing the semester conversion, we covered a number of issues, and while there are many more that need work and attention, we were able to resolve a number of them. One that is ongoing was a theme of issues involving the streamlining of bureaucratic processes that we have collected over the years. Now, without a question, we have some practices and processes that have not been reviewed in decades, and in some cases have expanded and become more burdensome rather than less. So would it not be great if we could make some simplifications and reduce the work that we have to do? Well, indeed. So with President Destler's concurrence, I will be working with the other divisional vice presidents to organize and charge a campus-wide task force that will review our procedures and make recommendations for change. I've also asked Graduate Studies Dean Hector Flores to work with Enrollment Management and Career Services to digitize the graduate student application process. And this will make it much easier for faculty to review applicants and speed up the process as well. And finally, the deans and I will be reviewing the work of last year's task force on faculty hiring and deciding which recommendations to implement. So all this work should result in more streamlined processes, less paperwork, and a better quality. I'm looking forward to making material progress in this very important issue that's faced. Now, I've really enjoyed the listening tour, and I listed as a highlight of last year for me. It was really a pleasure to engage in the conversations and get to know better our more than 1,500 faculty and staff in the Academic Affairs Division. There are over 75 departments, and I had meetings with over 55 of them. But for those I missed, do not worry. My trustee Pam Spencer and Katrina Rex are busy scheduling meetings with the remaining departments early in the fall semester. And then when I'm done with those, I plan to start the cycle all over so I can have follow-up conversations. Before I
RIT, our course is set. We celebrate a promise kept, a life of living you have taught. Let new horizons now be sought. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Davey. I think every year that just gets more and more moving as we start our new academic year. Before we go any further, I'd like to welcome some of our special guests. I'm going to start, of course, with any members of the Board of Trustees who have joined us this morning. Of course, the trustees provide the vision and the strategy for Rochester Institute of Technology. Let's give a warm welcome to our trustees. And of course, our ceremony this morning is enriched by the presence and expertise of our professional sign language interpreters and real-time captionists. Let's thank them for their important work in facilitating access to communication. Plus, they are very fun to watch as well. Now, I'm also proud to welcome two new individuals to campus, and I'm sure you'll want to spend some time getting to know them. James Hall is our new Executive Director of the Center for Multidisciplinary Studies, and Sandra Johnson, our new Senior Vice President for Student Affairs. Sandy, welcome. Jim. Dr. Hall comes to us from the University of Alabama, where he served as Director of the new college at Alabama and Executive Director of the Consortium for Innovative Environments in Learning. And originally hailing from Canada, Jim is happy to be closer to family and friends in Ontario, but probably a little less happy to have to purchase a snow shovel and winter jacket again, I'm guessing. Dr. Johnson comes to us from Hofstra University, where she served as Vice President for the Division of Student Affairs at Hofstra University. She also served as an Associate Dean in Student Affairs at Columbia University and Barnard College for several years. So welcome, Jim and Sandy. Now, this year marks our second year of the semester system. What? We're in the semester system? We completed our first year, and I want to say with flying colors, thanks to the meticulous long-term planning of our faculty and staff. Now, as you probably know, I was able to meet with the faculty and staff of many of our academic departments over the past year, and the majority of the feedback I received indicated that while the transition from quarters to semesters was a challenge for both students and faculty, the semesters did allow time for deeper discussions and increased engagement between students. Good morning, RIT community. Welcome to the traditional President's Address to the RIT community. Now, I'm never really quite sure if people know who I am, so just in case, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Jeremy Haefner, Provost and Senior Vice President, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome you to the start of a new academic year. You know, it just seems like May commencement was just a couple of weeks ago, and the summer went by really, really quickly. So before we begin, it is very appropriate that we stand and sing the national anthem, followed by our alma mater. So please join me. Keith Jenkins, Associate Professor in the Department of Communication in the College of Liberal Arts, will lead us in the singing, accompanied by Nathan Davey from the Eastman School of Music. Keith? Speaker, I want to share with you two reasons that contribute to my deep optimism about the future of RIT. So first, RIT is positioned to have, I think, another groundbreaking year. Enrollments across the board are very healthy. The budget for next year is on solid footing, and the new students, whom we welcomed just this week, are joining our family, are truly talented and eager to be here. Our sponsored research efforts have already had a very productive start with over $10 million in new awards in July alone. And the new strategic plan, which will be presented to the Board of Trustees in this November, will provide a well-lit pathway for RIT's future. And Dr. Destler will discuss this and more, of course, in his remarks. But for now, I hope you can see a glimpse of why we should be so optimistic and enthusiastic for RIT's future. But it's there because of your tremendous work. And so I want to take an opportunity just to thank you for all the work that you do to make RIT a great university. So let's give ourselves a round of applause to all of those who work so hard. Thank you so much. Now, the second reason that we should feel optimistic about the future really stems to the very essence of RIT, and that's the importance of that special relationship that develops between students and faculty. You're about to see the latest in a series of videos created by Joe Bellavia and the production team at the Wallace Center, describing the relationship of Kyla Sandoval and her faculty in the Department of Mechanical Engineering Technology in CAST. So let's roll the reel and take a look.
Hi, my name is Kayla and I'm from El Paso, Texas. In high school, I knew that I wanted to improve the things around me, but I didn't know how just yet. So I wanted to go to a college that encourages new ways of thinking and supports students in making their ideas come to life. RIT was the perfect environment for me. I started in the undeclared science program, but when I saw one of my friends, an MET major, working on an awesome project for pumpkin chunkin', right away I knew I wanted to do what they were doing. So after my first